Welcome, everyone. We are so excited that you have joined us tonight. We are going to, as you can see here, we're going to learn about leveraging natural GLP-1. And this is so exciting. And we are super excited because we have our favorite anti-aging physician on here tonight, Dr. Deborah Viglione, and she is going to unwrap this for us and show us how we can have healthy, lasting weight loss. This is just a few of her credentials. But you can see here, she's board certified in internal medicine, double board certified. She's board certified in anti-aging regenerative medicine. She has stem cell fellowship. She has an integrative anti-aging practice in Gulf Breeze, Florida. And, I've known Dr. Viglione for a few years, and she is just an amazing person, above and beyond all of her accomplishments. She has the greatest heart. Her motivation is to help the whole world, and she wants to keep everyone active, healthy, feeling like they're 40 when they're 80. It's real exciting to have her on here tonight. And so, Dr. Viglione, I just want to turn the time over to you. Thank you so much. It's just an honor to have you here and taking the time out of your busy schedule to share with us tonight from your knowledge and experience.
Okay. Merry Christmas, everybody. I wore my little jingle bells in green and I got on red pants, So
Merry Christmas.
anyway, this was kind of fun for me. I spent a good long time doing research, but we'll get into it. Let's see. So I have to do the disclaimer. I am a consultant with LifeVantage, but I'm not speaking for LifeVantage. I am speaking as a doctor and from my personal experience and my own research. And this is not to be construed as medical advice or that I'm treating you. And you shouldn't launch on any program if you have something wrong with you unless you talk to your physician. So that's basically it. So what I want to do tonight is I want to go through the history behind the GLP-1 discovery, help you understand how glucagon and insulin work together for sugar balance, and the role of GLP-1 and GIP in regulating the sugar balance and your appetite, and learn what other organs these hormones react with, learn the anti-aging benefits, which are phenomenal, and then understand somewhat about the pharmaceuticals with the new LifeVantage product that's come out called Mind Body. So I should cover all those areas. So it's interesting because my main medical conference is occurring at the end of this week. I'll be flying to Vegas on Wednesday. It's the big worldwide convention of anti-aging regenerative medicine. And 10 years ago, I was there and was introduced to this activation company. It was kind of a funny story, but it is sold through consultants only. It is a network marketing or direct sales. And I was making fun of them. And I was with all these doctors that were there. And anyway, it's a long story short. I made fun of them. And then I went to a lecture where they were talking about this particular Protandim in the blue bottle. And I saw all the data how this activates your genes and decreases the aging process. About fell out of my chair and was like, holy cow, this is going to change my practice, going to change the world, going to change the history of medicine because it gets at the root of aging and disease. And so I was on board. And of course, they're laughing at me because I joined Whole Heart Singer, whatever. Anyway, so I'm 10 years now. This will be my anniversary. And they now have much more than just the Protandim NRF2. These are their activators. And I won't be able to go into, we can do that another day, about the collagen and the NRF2. But what we're going to be talking about tonight is MB Core and MB Enhance, which is their new activators. So we are the only company out there that really studies gene activation scientifically and finds out the way we can use nutrition to affect our gene expression and to be healthier and hopefully increase our health span. So GLP-1, and you may have heard of this because, well, later I'll bring up the drugs, but it's a hormone or peptide, and it's made by the L cells in our guts. That's down in the colon, the lower part of the intestine. And this hormone helps regulate your sugar balance, your appetite, and your digestion. So it's called glucagon-like peptide 1, but we just always call it GLP-1. And this is how it began. This lizard that lives out in the southwestern United States, it's called the Viglione monster. Isn't it cute? And what they found out, these two researchers, first of all, they noticed that this lizard could go up to 3 years without eating because it stored fat in its tail. And they started looking at it hormonally to find out how does it do this. And they found out that in the salivary venom, there was this peptide that regulated insulin production, and it was called exendin 4. Then they made a synthetic version of it, and after they researched it for a while, and it's called exenatide, and they used it for type 2 diabetes. The brand names were Byetta and Bydureon. This was licensed in 2005, and that is how long I have been using these drugs. So we're looking at 20 years now, and using them. And that it started out with Byetta, and now we have much newer forms that I'll go into. But the thing about GLP-1 is when it's released into the bloodstream, it's rapidly broken down by an enzyme called DPP4. And what they noticed was the exenatide from the lizard was degraded slower, and that was Byetta, but Byetta was injectable, and it still had to be dosed. I believe it was twice a day. Then they came out with Bydureon, which was a once a week, which was a big change. Well, I'll get into that. But so it was a game changer in diabetes. Up until this time, natural history of diabetes was you continued to gain weight, got fat, your lipids got all out of whack, you built up plaque in your blood vessels, that you end up with a stroke, heart attack, peripheral vascular disease with an amputation or gangrene, and eventually your pancreas would fail, your kidneys would fail, dialysis, death, blindness, obesity, immobilization. It was just horrible. And all of the drugs that we had to try to bring down the blood sugar actually accelerated this process of vascular disease and blindness and made you fatter. So it was horrible. And enter this drug, and it changed everything. Now we have more synthetic versions of the peptide. They continue to improve them. They made them pretty much once a week. There are still daily drugs, but they've made them much more bioidentical to what our human GLP-1 is. The lizard stuff is still available, but the newer ones aren't. They're much more bioidentical to our body. So a peptide is basically 2 or more amino acids that are in a chain. The first one we discovered out of a human body, well, it might even have been an animal, was insulin. And all these peptides have biological action in the body. So they're a fragment typically of a longer amino acid. We have over 7,000 that have been identified, and they're huge for the potential for treating illnesses and aging. There are so many. There's this, peptide Bible I have, different things that they affect your immune system, the aging process, you name it. There's a peptide for it, but the FDA is trying very hard to shut down, and they've cut down our access to most of them. So I'm hoping with this administration change and the changes we're going to do with the FDA, we can bring these peptides back. But the problem is the drug companies, they can put a patent on them, like there's patents on these drugs, but they can also be synthetically compounded, and it doesn't bring in money for big pharma. So this GLP-1 is in a family of peptides or hormones called incretins, and they tell the pancreas. Now, the pancreas has multiple functions, but the pancreatic beta cells are the ones that release insulin into the bloodstream. Glucagon is released, and what it does is tell the liver to release stored blood sugar. So these two hormones work together to keep your blood sugar at a normal level. Like if you have too much glucagon, you're going to have too much blood sugar. Your body will then release insulin then to bring that blood sugar down. But when you get older and you get heavier, and just through toxins over time, this system is starting to break down. And I think a lot of it is due to the GMO corn syrup that we've been exposed to our whole lives, that it's messing up this whole process. And then when we age, it gets worse. So our bodies are not making the GLP-1 like they should be. and we get more insulin resistant as we get older, and we get heavier, and it's more and more difficult to lose weight. And eventually, if that process continues, you'll end up with diabetes. So we're going to talk a little bit also about one that works hand in hand with the GLP-1. It's called GIP, gastric inhibitory peptide. And guess what? LifeVantage is studying that one right now. So, that's going to be awesome. Okay, so I just put this in as a balance scale. So insulin's decreasing the blood sugar, glucagon's increasing it. Now, you may have heard that insulin's a bad guy because too much insulin causes aging and disease as well. And that's what happened with the older drugs. It was telling the pancreas to release insulin, but the problem is the body was insulin resistant and didn't have enough of the GLP-1, because what these do is turn on insulin when you eat, and then it turns it off after you eat. So the insulin doesn't stay up all the time. Also helps sensitize you, the muscles, to uptake the blood sugar better. So you end up using insulin like you were made to use it and not have it hang around too long. And that's why you don't see the weight gain. All right, so the actions of GLP-1. So you're going to increase the insulin in response to a meal. The L cells are going to release that in your intestine. And you're going to reduce the sugar production by the liver. It slows your gastric emptying and digestion. And that's helpful because the slower you digest, the longer you're going to feel full and not want to eat again. So that helps in weight management. It also can cause some side effects on the other end, which we'll go into. It's going to reduce your appetite and food intake, because this is why our product is called Mind Body, because it works on your brain to tell you that you're full. And then it's going to block the glucagon release, because when you eat, you don't want glucagon up because that raises the blood sugar. You're going to raise the blood sugar just from the food you're eating. And it also improves the muscle uptake of insulin, and that decreases the insulin resistance. And that's the importance of keeping your muscle mass as you get older. It also, interestingly enough, is involved in memory formation, and studies are ongoing looking at neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's to see if these GLP-1 drugs are going to be effective in remediating those diseases. So this GLP-1 has to bind to receptors, and there's receptors in multiple organs in the body, which we'll go through some of it, not just the pancreas. But as I said at the beginning, it's rapidly broken down by DPP-4, and then that's excreted by the kidneys. So there's another class of drugs out there. They're DPP-4 inhibitors to slow the breakdown in diabetics of their own GLP-1. Problem is they weren't near as effective as the GLP-1 drugs, I guess because the diabetics were short on the hormone to start out with. So, it helps, but not as much. So the actions of GIP, which is gastric inhibitory peptide, they're K cells, and they're in the upper intestine or the small intestine. They work together on the pancreas to stimulate the insulin. But here is, I think, one of the biggest game changers in the aging process and in diabetics, because when you are diagnosed with diabetes, you've typically lost 80% of your beta cells in your pancreas. So that's 80% of the cells that release insulin. And so it's not long before, if you continue to stress the pancreas, that you're going to lose it all and then end up on insulin. By stimulating GLP-1, you're actually making the body create more beta cells and increase the pancreatic mass. And slowing down apoptosis is basically cells dying. So this is huge for the natural history of diabetes, but also for us, so that we keep our pancreas going, even if we've had a lot of corn syrup through the years. Love this. Promotes bone formation. I did not find that GLP-1 does that, but GIP does. And this is the part I don't get. It says enhances glucagon response after eating. I really couldn't find an explanation for that, because it should be doing opposite. And when you the last class of drugs that came out uses GIP and GLP-1, and they're actually better at reducing weight loss and reducing the markers of diabetes. So that's, I don't really understand that. And I know that they help in fat deposition, both of them do. Okay, and this one helped a lot with memory formation and appetite suppression. But just like the GLP-1, it's rapidly broken down unless you do something to it. So these are the findings. Like there's been a lot of, I guess, negative press lately on these drugs because they've really gotten a lot of direct-to-consumer advertising. I'll show them later, but like Wegovy, you've probably heard about that, Ozempic, and people are, I don't know, they're saying that they're bad. They do have some side effects, and we'll go into it. But overall, and I can tell you this, and I've worked with these drugs for 20 years, it's amazing. I don't think it has the FDA indication yet to get rid of fatty liver, but there aren't any other drugs that do it like this. It's amazing. I can take a fatty liver and have it gone in a year with this, and that will reduce the non-alcoholics fatty liver that it can actually go into cirrhosis. Amazing to reduce systemic and tissue inflammation, and you can follow an HSCRP, and it almost always normalizes if people are behaving themselves, especially if they're taking our Protandim NRF2. And that, because it also brings the lipids down into the range they're supposed to be, and it stops the lipid peroxidation, which is oxidizing the lipid, which makes it bad, really, and it'll cause more heart disease and atherosclerosis. So these drugs have shown huge cardiac benefits for reducing heart attacks and strokes. It has positive effects on the heart, even on the pumping action of the heart. Positive effects on the kidney. It's helping keep the kidney from being damaged by the blood sugar and the natural decline in kidney function with diabetes. Great effects on the immune system because it's bringing down the inflammatory markers and increasing the anti-inflammatory markers. Improvement in memory. And we went over the pancreatic function. Now we've got to help improve your bone density if you get the GIP going. And the best part is it gets rid of your fat, both visceral fat, which is a really bad fat, metabolically active, and your subcutaneous fat. And that's why it's been such a game changer in weight loss. Their actions on the pancreas are about the same, but they both are helping with the brain and satiety, but the GLP-1 seems to be the one that's doing the most for the heart. All right, so aging is going to decrease your production of the GLP-1, and that probably a great deal is due to our disrupted microbiome. We don't have the right bacteria. We're not making the short chain fatty acids we need. And also just that's from like oxidative stress, toxins in our environment, and lipid peroxidation is just not good. And we all lose it. Our metabolism slows down. We get the weight gain, the insulin resistance, our cholesterol goes up, we have inflammation. And if we do it long enough, we're going to have heart disease or diabetes. So these activating the GLP-1 and the GIP will definitely increase your health span because they've been shown to decrease your oxidative stress, which is free radicals damage. I didn't spell that right. Should have two S's. It decreases your cellular senescence. And when a cell gets old, and it should die, but when it doesn't die, it becomes what they call a senescent cell, which is very inflammatory. And if it is allowed to remain and the body doesn't get rid of it, it stops dividing and it can turn into an immortal cell or a cancer cell. So you do not want senescent cells. And it will help decrease your cognitive decline and improves your metabolic function. And this is something I didn't delve into a lot, but there are studies showing it helps in DNA repair. All right, so these are the drugs you've probably heard about in the news. Your friends are on them. The ones Victoza and Saxenda. Victoza and Saxenda are the same thing, but Victoza was indicated for diabetes. Saxenda was indicated for weight loss. Then came out Trulicity and Ozempic and Wegovy. Wegovy's the weight loss portion, but they're the exact same molecule. It's just when you're dealing with a pharmaceutical, they have certain indications. And then these are the real game changers, these bottom two, Mounjaro and the Zepbound, because they have dual action. And when you compare them to the others, these are much more effective and they seem to have less side effects. That's why I'm really excited that LifeVantage is looking at the GIP as well. But all drugs have side effects. They have good things and they have bad things. And the fact that the first ones were made of venom makes absolutely no difference in the world. I've used them all and no more side effects with that than I see with the more bioidentical. But you probably heard a lot about the muscle loss. And I think that's primarily these drugs reduce your appetite so much that people are skipping meals. They're not changing their diet to something healthy, but like say they like ramen noodles, they're eating ramen noodles and that's it. There's no nutritional value to that. And they're not working out because the people that I've seen that work out and eat properly, they don't lose their muscle. Um, Saggy skin is huge because these people are getting rapid weight loss. And that's mainly because they want to. So they'll keep going up on the drug to lose weight faster. Hair loss. And I think, again, that's nutritional. There may be something unique to the drug, but not everybody loses it. So it's not a standard thing. Now, here's the biggest problems is the slowdown of the gastric emptying and the digestion. That is one of the ways the drugs work. That's what GLP-1 does. But if you're prone to constipation, it could make it worse. And some people, it's been a really problem. They talk about bowel paralysis. It's not permanent, but it can be severe. And I even heard about somebody that didn't poop much for 3 years and they had to go in surgically and extract it. So that's something really important. And as we work with our supplement, there may be people that experience that because, again, that's the mechanism action of the GLP-1. Nausea was a big side effect with the earlier drugs, not so much with the Mounjaro, but it can be severe. You can have vomiting. Certainly if you overeat, and that's true probably even with the natural version. If you overeat, you're going to pay for it. You're going to have reflux. You're going to feel miserable and you may vomit because you've got too much sitting in there and it's not going down. But also part of the GI tract is your gallbladder. And so you can, if you're prone to gallstones or gallbladder attacks, that can happen. And people have had to have their gallbladders out that were on these drugs and they cost massive money. Right now, because they're so expensive, insurance companies are denying these drugs on my diabetics, which is tragic. Even if they've, we follow an A1C with diabetes to see if they're good, and they don't want to give them to anybody with an A1C less than 7. Well, you really want to get it into the 5s, which is where you don't have the long-term complications. But these insurance companies are horrible. So this is kind of your take home here when we move into the natural version. It's going to work on your brain for satiety and to decrease your appetite. It's going to work on your stomach so it stays full longer and work on the pancreas to balance that insulin and glucagon. And that will lower your food cravings. So now we're going to get on to LifeVantage's groundbreaking, brand new, industry first, activating your own body's production of GLP-1. The word enhance is true. If you just do the core, you're not going to get the benefits of taking them together. So in their studies, they did a human study, they did a test tube study. In 12 weeks' time, on average, the people increased their GLP production by 140%, which is awesome. But even better than that, and this is something that the drugs are not doing, it increased your GLP-1 receptors. And I think that's one of the biggest problems I'm seeing in some of the people that need very high doses of the drugs. So they may have like receptor defects, and so the drugs don't work as well, so they have to have more. So increasing receptors is huge. They looked at, and we'll get into the genes more, but it decreased the breakdown of GLP-1, just like the drugs that decrease the DPP-4. Average weight loss was 1 to 2 pounds a week, which is a healthy weight loss. People want to lose 5 to 10. That's not healthy. And they did up to 25 pounds. And there may be people on here that have lost more than that and want to share at the end. But slower weight loss is more sustainable and more likely to stay off. So this was their test tube study, and it's just a visual where you can see the green here and a lot more GLP-1 production. So what happens basically is your nutrients are going to enter your gut, and the bacteria is going to break down the fibers that are in, and the resistant starches that are in the enhance, and that will turn into short chain fatty acids, butyrate being one of them. That's what the bacteria love to eat. And when the short chain fatty acids bind to these receptors on the L cells in your intestine, that stimulates the GLP-1 pathway by itself. But we're also turning on this GCG gene, which is proglucagon, which is a precursor to GLP-1. It turns on the PCSK1 gene that produces enzymes that then take that proglucagon and then change it into GLP-1. So we're increasing the production in a different pathway, not just binding to the L cells. The gene is going to make more, the PSK is going to help cleave it, and then the GLP-1 is released into the lymphatic fluid that's outside of the intestine, and then that gets into the bloodstream, goes throughout the body, but then the body's going to break it down really quickly. But we're activating a gene that helps decrease that breakdown. So this is what they found in the studies. So they upregulated that GCG gene, which is what's making the proglucagon, which is the precursor, 95%. That is huge. It upregulated 32% the PCSK1 gene, so you're cleaving that into the GLP-1. And it increased the receptor expression 53%. And it reduced the expression of the DPP4, which is the one that breaks it down, 38%. So you're going to make more, you're going to have more receptors that it can act on, and then you're going to break it down slower. So this is absolutely phenomenal. The drugs are not doing all that. Let's see. And this is the human study, and they did a questionnaire before and after. And this is what was reported. 82% took back control of their relationship with food. And that is one thing with the drug. There's been listed depression and even some suicidal ideation. And when they break it down, people that have gotten morbidly obese have an abnormal addiction to food, and it's more of a mental and a psychological thing. And people get depressed when you take away what they've always medicated themselves with, which is food. So this is, people are getting a healthier perspective on food. 95% reduction in sugar cravings. That's awesome. I had a lady in today, and I said she crossed over into diabetes, and she just eats sweets. And I'm like, you've got to quit eating sweets. And she's like, I don't think I can do that. And people chose smaller portions, and that's really important. That's my biggest problem. I love, if something tastes good, I'll eat 3 and 4 helpings. And that's what I was really hoping this would help me do, is choose smaller portions, because I know I will be full. And obviously feeling less hungry and for longer to not be hungry. 90% ate less at meals. And then now they eat for health instead of emotional eating. So those are really, really good numbers. So this is what's in the core. And these, I asked today, I said, well, how did you come up with these ingredients? Because there's so many in the core and so many in the enhance. And they said, well, there was a number of studies already on these individually and their action on GLP-1. So they had kind of a basis to start with and start testing. But one of the things that LifeVantage did that nobody else has done is they wanted to activate all of the different points, all the different genes in the pathway, not just one. And so they came up with this 8 ingredient, and they synergistically do what we've been talking about. But I wanted to just kind of go through just the individual benefits of the, like, lemon bioflavonoids have been shown to lower cholesterol and blood pressure and ultimately have positive cardiovascular benefits. Chromium is wonderful for blood sugar. It keeps it balanced and lowers it. Berberine also does that. And berberine is listed in a lot of weight loss formulas. It's very anti-cancer. It has positive effects in the gut. And I believe there's been studies showing a reduced incidence of colon cancer with that. Helps with your heart health, Hesperidin is very anti-inflammatory. It's an antioxidant. Matcha is an antioxidant, lots of fiber. It's also been put in weight loss formulas and improves cognitive function. I think that's where I used it more with people. Has ultimate cardiovascular benefits, lowers lipids. Eggplant is very rich in fiber, antioxidants, and polyphenols. Now, if you'll notice in nature, eggplant's purple. There really aren't very many purple vegetables or purple plants, and all of them are just punched full of polyphenols and good things for you. Yerba mate is rich in vitamins and minerals, the polyphenols, which are an antioxidant just in a different way. It's also good for detoxifying. And honeysuckle's been used for swelling, for antiviral uses, quercetin, and essential oils. So, but when we put them in the MB formula or the core formula, they're synergistically working on those genes that we went through. And there's a couple more genes we're going to look at. That's the package insert, but it's really too hard to see. All right, so this is the bulk of, besides some vitamins and minerals, that's in the MB Enhanced, which is a powder. It's not a protein powder. It's not a meal replacement. And actually, LifeVantage was looking at this to be a meal replacer when they initially started it, but then they got into the GLP-1 and they said, well, we want to go there. But it's got the 2 resistant starches, kombucha, MCT oil, baobab, that's a tree, flaxseed, and guar. And I got another slide that kind of goes through them. So the resistant starches are basically a prebiotic, and a prebiotic is feeding the bacteria in your intestine. And so we're trying to feed these bacteria that help with the production of GLP-1 and the short chain fatty acids. So, oh gosh, I forget what I was going to say. Oh, they also make you feel full and make you feel full quicker and longer. Kombucha is a fermented tea. It's considered a probiotic because it has live organisms in it. It's an immune booster. It's anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. MCT oil is a wonderful energy source that stands for medium chain triglycerides. They're very easily digested, and it helps decrease appetite and caloric intake. So a good deal of weight loss programs will include MCT oils, particularly in the morning, like with your coffee, because you'll decrease your caloric intake throughout the day. Baobab is kind of cool. It originates in Africa, and it's known as the tree of life because it's bursting with so many nutrients and fiber, and they use it for about everything and anything health-wise. Flaxseed is high in omega-3s and also fiber, and the guar was just a thickening agent. The 2 probiotics that they put in there were the Bacillus coagulans and Bacillus clausii, and that's because they're spore forming and they resist digestion by the stomach acid. And that's just you can see there's more in there, but it's mostly just vitamins and minerals. So 2 more genes, the PPY, pancreatic polypeptide, that inhibits the gastric emptying. It delays the rise in glucose and insulin after eating because you're not dumping so much food at once into the bloodstream. And it regulates your energy balance. Again, it's going to be more of a smooth, not an up and down. And it inhibits the biliary secretion and the gallbladder contraction. So you can see that that's the gene that can cause trouble if you do it too much. And then this one is PYY. That's released into the ileum and colon in response to feeding, reduces the appetite through an effect on the brain, also slows gastric emptying. So it acts basically as a brake on the digestive system. But look at the gene activation this product does. Huge. So practical points, and I want to open it up for people to talk that have been on the product. I've been on it for a month. You got to give it time. It's not like the shots where you take the shot and you're not hungry. This is working with your body to upregulate those receptors, upregulate your production. And, the studies were over a 3-month period of time. And so don't even bother ordering it if you're not going to give it that 3 months and work with it. Now, I looked at the Enhance and was all excited because I was really hoping to heal my bloating and my reflux. I just said, my gut is not right. And this looked like so healthy for the gut. That was my main motivation to take it, but also because I wanted the anti-aging benefits. And I wanted to control my portion intake. Like I said, if I like something, I'll eat till I'm bursting like 3 and 4 helpings. So, um, and I have found that over time, I am full quicker. I mean, I'll still overeat sometimes if I like the way it tastes, but I don't need to. And I know I can fill my plate with half as much and I will be satisfied and I'll stay satisfied. I've lost some inches. I didn't really, um, you should really take pictures and you should measure yourself. And I did not do that, but people almost every week are saying, yeah, day in and day out, you've lost some weight. But I really haven't on the scale, but I'm not trying to. The core you should take on an empty stomach optimally and not eat for 30 to 60 minutes. And the enhance is powder. The first week they tell you to just start with 2 scoops and then go up on the second week. The day after I took the 2 scoops, I went to the bathroom 11 times. It was crazy. And I actually, every time I try to get up to more than 2 scoops, I'm in the bathroom too much. So right now I'm staying at 2, and other people may find that as well. I'm going to try to go up. This is again sold only through LifeVantage Consultants. So whoever invited you to this meeting, get back with them and they'll help you order. You can be a customer and just order at a discount, and you should put it on subscription because again, you're making a minimum of a 3-month commitment to this, or don't bother ordering. Plus, they'll fill your order quicker if you don't just buy a one-time thing. But also, you can become a consultant, which is what I am, and the people that invited you, which we basically tell other people about the products and help them get healthy and activated. And that actually, if you are a consultant, you get the best price, but you also get the opportunity to help people and have another source of income on the side. Because sometimes I think network marketing is criticized. Well, you're making money off people. Well, so does Walmart, so does Publix, so do the drug companies, so do the drugstores. Everyone's going to make some money, and there's nothing wrong, especially when you're making money and you're helping people at the same time. So the other thing that was a really surprise to me about LifeVantage was meeting all these fabulous people at the conventions they have that are health minded. And now, my best friends are through this company. So get back with the person that invited you and learn about our other activators and, how these products can help you achieve your health goals.